Okay, what's going on, Facebook? Um, Now, check this out. I figure it's about time that I vocalize my position, considering on Facebook I've been getting a lot of feedback from a lot of people, actually, good and bad, concerning this year's election. Now, let me start off by saying this. First of all, I'm neither a Democrat nor Republican. But I'm looking at this election and the two candidates that are running from a very analytical, logical standpoint. It has nothing to do with me being a Republican or a Democrat. And I'm actually amazed at how many African Americans, when they start discussing this, they resort to negative comments like coon, sellout, all kind of stuff like that. And I'm not that type of person that buy into that. I think that everybody deserves the right to choose who they want to support, vote for who they want to vote for. And it cracks me up when I hear people that are emotional thinkers, impulsive when they talk, and they're African American and they call other black people's coons. And I'm going, that's ironic. I mean, you got two Caucasian candidates running, and you're calling another black person a coon or a sellout to support another white person. I don't understand. I mean, who's the coon? Who's the sellout? When you look at the way that slavery worked, they would make sure that the majority of slaves had a mentality to where if one of the slaves decided, I want to think differently, I want to leave, I want to be free, all the rest of the slaves were broken mentally, and they would shame the other slave by saying, you must be, a sellout. They want them to stay. People are like, crabs in a barrel. But I've been talking to a lot of African Americans that think the way I think, and it has nothing to do with black, white, Latino, whatever. I've been talking to a lot of Latinos. I have a YouTube channel that is like, I can't even count the followers at this point. And ironically, most of the people who chime in are positive. Many of them are black, many of them are Latino, and they say, man, I feel the same way. And it's like coming out of the matrix when you start seeing what's really going down in this election. So I want to start off by saying, first of all, I love y'all all. Don't matter what you believe in, what you think. I'm not here to bash anybody, but I am here to tell you my perspective on this election. It is bigger than Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. There's some issues, some undermining issues. When I look at an election, when I look at a candidate, I don't think about, whether they're white, black, Latino. I look at the policies that these people have. And a lot of people will argue, well, Donald Trump don't have any policies. Oh, he ain't never talk about policies. I'm going, what are you talking about? People who are Donald Trump supporters, we're not supporters because of the way he looks. We listen to what he's saying, and what he's saying makes logical sense. You have to approach what he's saying from a non-emotional standpoint. Now, let me break that down. First of all, when you're doing a campaign, this is simple psychology. Any good campaign manager knows that they will use the greatest strength and weakness of humanity, which is their emotions. They will present topics to a large group of people, and they make sure that those topics are very emotional topics to them. And when you add in emotion, and you add in the media, and you add in your own narrative, and you throw that information out to a large group of people, if they're not wise enough to say, let me stop for a second before I just absorb what they're telling me, and look at what's their motive, what's the incentive for them throwing this out, what are they really trying to accomplish, and who's giving me the information. And then also, let me go back and see if the information is accurate, and also, is the context that the information in accurate. Well, a lot of the disagreements that people have when it comes down to Donald Trump is his rhetoric. They like, man, this guy, he called them Mexicans, rapists. He called them drug dealers. He did this. And then he said to the black people, I'll fix it. I was offended by that. When he said to the black community, I'll fix it. And said, what the hell do you have to lose? And they go off on that. And I say, why were you offended by that? Well, because that's racist. Why? What makes that comment racist? I'm not sure. And they really can't tell me. They will say, well, me as a black person, and I'm going to see what has happened is it is basic psychology. It is the stuff that lawyers, which most politicians are, lawyers do. What they do is they give you reasonable doubt. They don't say something is, they just say, didn't that sound that way? Can't you see it that way? So when Donald Trump said, African Americans, give me 4 years, I'll fix it. And he said, what the hell do you have to lose? And everybody lost their minds. Well, when you look at the majority of the media that came out, they were like, Donald Trump said this today, and wow, what an offensive comment. He just offended all black people. And they get their surrogates on TV that are black, and they want to support that narrative. And they paint the narrative that, didn't that sound a little racist to you? Now, they don't say Donald Trump is a racist. They'll just make the suggestion. Didn't that comment sound a little racist to you? They won't give you the whole context of why he said it, who he said it to, why. None of that. They just throw that out there and say, think about that. And if you are not a person who can get out of your emotions and say, what's the real deal? You will buy into it. And all of a sudden you're walking around and you're regurgitating what the media has told you. And so when somebody would ask me about that, I say, okay, when he said, I'll fix it, what upset you about that? Well, how are you going to come in and fix the black community? I said, well, the Democrats have been saying they'd fix it for years. Nobody got mad at them. It's the way they said it. If you got a problem with hearing it straight, then get out your emotions. Suck it up. Take it. I lived in a black community growing up, and I know what it is. And I worked in the black community. I'm an educator, so I know how the inner cities are. And so when he says stuff like, I'll fix it, I'm going, yeah, it's pretty broken. And a lot of people have been saying they're going to fix it for a long time. Hey, let's take the man for his word. Let's give him a shot. Versus the other candidate who's been in politics for a whole heap of years and ain't fixing it yet. So I'm saying I'm not offended by that. And then not to mention when he was talking about the African Latinos, people are losing their mind. Oh, even Latinos who went back and watched the original statement, they said, man, he didn't call all Latinos this and that. He said that Mexico was taking advantage of illegal immigration and they were sending over people who they didn't want. They weren't sending their best. They were sending their worst. They're sending their rapists. They're sending their drug dealers. And CNN and the rest of the media simply just took one little snip and said, he said Mexicans are rapists. They're drug dealers. And notice they always say he said Mexicans. Now, he was specifically talking about illegal immigration, illegal immigrants, not all Mexicans. And he was talking about how Mexico was sending a certain class of Mexicans. He said, but they're not all bad. But see, they don't record that. They don't put that out there. They only want to create a certain narrative. Now, why am I very suspicious of the Democratic Party this year? I voted Democrat in the past. I voted Republican in the past. I'm very suspicious because for the first time, Americans have had the opportunity to actually look inside of the mind of a candidate. Now, what do I mean? We all know that the system has been garbage. You know, we all have our suspicions as Americans, like, man, the system's rigged, politics is tricky. However, we've never had the chance to see it right in front of our face. So we just assumed. We're going, I know it's crooked. And so all we can do is make an educated decision. We see two candidates and we're going, which one of them is feeding me less boo-boo than the other one? And we make a decision. But this time, through the access of all of the WikiLeaks emails and all of the controversy that's come out about Hillary Clinton, we now have a chance to see in depth how corrupt she is as a politician. We've had the chance to see that she believes one thing in the public and says one thing, but then behind closed doors believes and says and does something else. We've never had that opportunity. So now that we are educated, well, see, a lot of us, because see, she has done a great job with redirecting your attention away from all of her garbage and focusing on propaganda, focusing on distractions, focusing on campaign rhetoric and all of that stuff, so you don't look and see her garbage. Now, all of the Trump voters, one of the biggest reasons we are voting for him is because she is so corrupt. We now see a corrupt government, a corrupt system, and yet a lot of Americans are going, I know it's foul, but I don't care. I'm going to put her in office anyway. And I'm going, okay, you're going to put her in office and you know she's foul. Now, if she has the power and the ability to corrupt the system and get away with stuff now, before she became president, how do you think she's going to be when she becomes president? You think that's going to become less? So let's look at some basic stuff. People say, man, Donald Trump, he don't have the experience. He ain't been in politics and she's a seasoned politician. Well, guess what? All of that seasoned experience means nothing to me because it produced no results. Just because you have experience, if it's bad experience, who cares? See, I look at logic, common sense. Any president that gets into office is not going to know everything, but they're smart people. They should be. They should be smart enough to surround themselves with other people who, when they give them the information, they can process it and make a good, educated decision. So now, what made me lean towards Donald Trump is because of what he says makes logical sense. But let me tell you the trick. When he is going against a opponent like Hillary Clinton, what she does is says, let me paint the narrative that logic is divisive. Logic is racist. Logic is anti-liberalism, whatever. And so when he throws something out, a person will say, yeah, that makes sense. But then you have her and the media come in and say, did you hear what he said? That's ridiculous. For example, when he said we need to secure our borders, I'm going, that makes sense. I mean, because before he ever brought this issue up, I'm going, why is it that we are allowing so many people to just jump over the border and we acting like we can't stop it? No other country does this. Russia, you don't see people jumping over the Russian border. They be like, you come through our border, we kill you, okay? Don't worry. They shoot people. North Korea, nobody's jumping over their border. Everybody else can secure their border, but America's going, we can't do nothing about it. You always got to say, why? We're supposed to be the most powerful nation on the planet. Why can't we stop people from jumping the border? Possibly because we don't want to. There's something in it for us. It's that free labor, which is almost basically slavery. Not to mention, if all the Mexicans that are here illegally, if we gave them amnesty and they said, okay, now that we're here, we want equal pay, they would be like, how can we ship them back to Mexico? They are using the illegal immigration to funnel and help and assist our economy. But the flaw with that is this. One, they're getting cheap labor, and that's not cool. Two, we are also setting ourselves up for somebody else to come through Mexico right into our country and make us vulnerable to terroristic attacks. That's just logical sense. But when Donald Trump said it, they're like, this is divisive. I can't believe it. Our country's made off of immigration. And it's, yeah, legal immigration, not illegal immigration. So what they try to do is make you accept unlawfulness. They say, yeah, it's illegal, but we want you to accept it. And they paint the narrative of, if you don't accept it, you are racist. You are sexist. You are anti-whatever. And I'm going, but that's the law. I thought we were supposed to support what the laws we put in place. I'm not sure. You tell me. Then you look at other things that Donald Trump talks about. For example, when it comes down to him and the military, he talked about how that he wants to build up our military, but Donald Trump does not want to go to war with anybody. And they're trying to paint him as this warmonger, and this person is ready to get in office like, yep, yahoo, like Yosemite Sam, pushing buttons, blowing up everybody. Isn't it funny how they're trying to paint him to be that type of way? But yet when you look at Hillary Clinton's WikiLeaks emails, she is talking about overthrowing Assad over in Syria. We all know that we've tried to do this in the past. Bush tried to do it in Iraq. It ended up in a mess. Then Obama came along. He did it over in Libya. It ended up in a mess. Now we're trying to do the same thing with Assad. She said Assad must go. But what's crazy to me is that she is pushing this big narrative talking about Russia, 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 Russia. Why is she pushing Russia? When you want to send a country to war, you got to have the support of the people because they will have an uprising. Well, guess what she's doing? She's throwing out propaganda to get America desensitized so that when Russia has a problem with us going over there, setting up a no-fly zone, which will lead to war with Russia, Americans will get behind the support of our military because we're going to go, all this time Russia been hacking us anyway. And quiet as kept, there are a lot of experts who say Russia had nothing to do with it. Instead, the NSA has something to do with it because they're upset at the fact that Hillary Clinton put all of our overseas operatives in jeopardy. And some didn't even make it back because of her carelessness with her email server. Therefore, they're upset about it and they don't want a commander-in-chief that caused the lives of others and put everybody at risk because of her selfishness. You know, they don't want that. So rumor has it, like I said, that they sending this information to Julian Assad, and he's feeding it back into the U.S. Now, whether you believe that or not is neither here. But what you do know is that Hillary Clinton has a track record of corruption. Number one, her and Bill stuck it to Haiti. The Haitians are trying to get us to see through it. They going, man, she ain't right. She ain't right, y'all. I know she's feeding y'all boo-boo and trying to tell you it's chocolate, but she ain't right. They put us on hold for our relief fund so they could set their people up. Then they were supposed to give us money. We never saw it. Where'd the money go? When they asked her in the debate, where'd all those billions go and disappear? She pivoted and people bought it. She's the queen of pivoting and everybody just buys it. And I'm going, did anybody see that? She committed a crime and nobody. When you see somebody in power like that committing crime after crime after crime after crime after crime and they're getting away with it, that is not a good sign. That is a sign that the system is corrupt and she has too much power as it is. Do you think that when she gets in, she is not going to abuse that power? Oh, she pushes, Donald Trump did this. He said he loves Putin. Isn't that funny? The WikiLeaks email showed that she had a relationship with Putin where she was selling uranium to the Russians. And Time Warner Cable was trying to get in on the deal as well. But guess what? Time Warner Cable owns a lot of the news media or stations as well. So now we see why we don't see a lot about Hillary when we watch the news, but we hear a lot about Donald Trump. Not only that, how you like this? Before she announced the run, they invited all of the news media except for Fox. Yeah, they invited everybody who they know that would support them except for Fox. Now, what do you think they was talking about? Think about that. Anyway, I'm telling y'all, there's a lot more to this election than what you all are seeing. You got to look at how corrupt she is and ask yourself, do you want to put a politician in office that has known corruption, violation of every part of our government and be okay with that? This is part one. I'm going to bring part two. I don't want to kill y'all with the full-blown 20-minute message. So stay tuned for part two.